I'm Harrison Graham. Here's what we got coming up on Chicago Bears Now. Ben Johnson sounds off on a few topics, the penalty issues, and Caleb Williams' performance against Baltimore. Will Ryan Poles make a move before the NFL trade deadline? The injuries are starting to pile up, so will that force action? And speaking of injuries, we have some new updates. Not good news for one of the Bears rookies, plus a couple other Bears players to take note of, and a couple Bengals players as the Bears get ready to move on to Cincinnati this week. So busy show here on the channel. Just want to take a second here and thank you guys so much. We crossed 136,000 subscribers during our watch party on Sunday. You guys are the best. Our next milestone's 137,000. So if you're new here or if you haven't quite taken the plunge by hitting that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. It's free. We don't charge anything. Give us a shot. Hopefully we won't let you down. Okay, Ben Johnson sounds off here on a Monday. He joined ESPN 1000 like he does every Monday. Then he had his press conference as well as he kind of followed up on the game yesterday, watching the tape, all of that stuff. Here's what he had to say regarding the penalty issues, which have been glaring all season long. He says, "We're here as coaches. We're going to help support these guys and be along with them. But it would go a long way if we just had a little bit more ownership in that locker room to take the bull by the horns so we do get this cleaned up." And one thing that I appreciate about Ben Johnson is he's not doing that in the media and not saying the same thing to his players from everything we've heard. He's very blunt. He's not going to hold back. Obviously, there's certain things you can't say publicly that you would say privately. We all understand the nuances there. But Matt Eberflus would never do something like that. And the bottom line of this is hey, yeah, maybe there's coaching things. Maybe at times they're asking them to do too much. But players got to take ownership of this too. Like, it's every week, way too many penalties. It's a problem. And yeah, there's a few BS calls a week. Welcome to the NFL in 2025. These officials suck. But a lot of these penalties are self-inflicted, pre-snap, not lining up properly, stupid holds on special teams and stuff like that. And that's what the players just got to say, hey, we got to cut this shit out, man. We got to cut this down. It's 9.1 penalties per game. It's way too many. You got to get that. I mean, ideally you're like 5 or less, but at least let's get it under 7. Can we cut 2 penalties out a game? That should not be too much to ask at this point in time, especially with the self-inflicted ones. I mean, we're 7 games in, 8 weeks in. It's got to cut down. It just has to cut down. Now, Ben Johnson also was asked to evaluate Caleb Williams because the sky was falling yesterday. All Bears fans wanted him benched. Not all of you guys, but a lot did. He said he played better this game than I think he did the previous 2. When you look at it, all 60 minutes, and I'm not saying it's perfect, I actually came away from watching the tape this morning encouraged that we took a step in the right direction here this week. I know for some people it's hard maybe to rationalize because the result wasn't there, but yeah, I saw tangible growth from him. He's working his ass off. I said this in real time during the game, and I get it. We all want to win. They're not finishing drives. 16 points against Baltimore yesterday, not enough. We all understand that. But outside of the interception, I thought for the most part, not every play, there were definitely a couple misfires. The third down to Rome in the first half, I would say at least one of the 2 intentional groundings was on him. The other one was a miscommunication with Colston Loveland upon further review. The interception was bad. You got to take the check down to Kyle Mononga. Ben Johnson said it, hey, I would like him to take the check down there. We get that. Outside of that play, though, I thought he was clearly better than he was against the Saints. You could debate Washington. He made big plays against the Commanders when he had to. But honestly, I thought he was more consistent in this game. The accuracy reflects that. Getting back to the check down and not forcing the issue checks that. And look, it's, you got to finish. I've said it. You finish a couple of those drives in the red zone, it's a different conversation. Not only maybe is the result different, but the stat line's different. The talk around Caleb is different. But bottom line is, he did throw that interception. They didn't finish in the red zone for whatever reason. So he's got to wear it. But when Ben says, yeah, I thought he played better than the last 2 weeks, I kind of felt the same way yesterday. And, I didn't yell from the mountaintops at it because you had your 4-game win streak snapped and no one wants to hear about, the quarterback actually played better this week. But I think he's right when he says that. I felt the same way in real time. The problem is the big mistake he made was in a critical spot, and it was an absolute backbreaker. So that really screams loud when that type of play happens, obviously. Do you trust Ben Johnson? It's simple. Do you trust Ben Johnson? Type T for trust, D for don't. He's given me no reason not to up to this point. Didn't think he had his best game either yesterday. A couple of not great play calls and notable spots, but I have absolute trust in the head coach. All right. This guy, not so much, but let's talk about Ryan Poles. NFL trade deadline coming up in just over a week. Will the Bears make a move? We've obviously talked about the cornerback position with the amount of injuries, and one of those corners I talked about came off the board today. The Titans and the Rams pulled off a pick swap. 5th round back to Tennessee, 6th rounder, and Roger McCreary, the nickel corner from Tennessee, going to the Rams. And I look at that trade and listen, I think sometimes as fans it's easy. It's like, why didn't we do that? Well, maybe they tried and they liked this offer better. Maybe, there could be factors. We don't know for sure. But I will say, I look at that and I'm like, I would have done that in a heartbeat. And again, maybe they tried. I don't know. But that seems like a pretty easy move. Roger McCreary is a rental. You get him for a day 3 pick swap. Let's go. Like, he's your nickel replacement until Kyler's back. And when Kyler's back, maybe you mix and match some. Maybe Kyler plays him outside. Maybe McCreary gives you a few snaps on the outside. He's really only a slot, but he's played a lot of ball in this league on his rookie contract. Can't do a pick swap. So that's a little frustrating. Doesn't mean they didn't try. Doesn't mean they're not going to make a move for another player, but you're pretty thin at that position, man. Like, you are down really, really key players. And, hopefully Stevenson's back soon, but Gordon's out at least 3 weeks. Who knows if Jalen's coming back? Terrell Smith's out for the year. Zay Frazier. Like, you need a piece back there. And, oh, by the way, you're pretty thin in your pass rush, too. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a second. But first, do have to tell you guys about our friends at Prize Picks. We appreciate Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep this season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. It's very easy to navigate the Prize Picks app, as you can toggle by sports and then specific stats as you start to make your lineups. You just pick more or less on stat projections for 2 to 6 player lineups, and if you hit, you win money. On Prize Picks, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose Flex Play, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the power play. No matter how you play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. Little Monday action for you guys. Keeping it simple. 2-player power play lineup. Marcus Mariota, longest rush, 11.5 yards. I took the more. He's going to use his legs tonight. And then Rashee Rice, more than 66.5 receiving yards. They're going to pepper him against that Commander secondary. $20 lineup to win $60. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use our code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Okay, just to kind of re-emphasize this cornerback issue. Jalen out until at least December, maybe for the year. Kyler Gordon at least 3 more weeks. I've heard potentially longer. Tyreek Stevenson, I think there's a chance he could play this week. They didn't put him on short-term IR. That tells you they think he'll be back sooner rather than later. Terrell Smith out for the year. Zay Frazier out for the year. You're just down. I mean, all 5 of those guys would have made the roster, and none of them are available right now. You're starting corners this week. Where Nashawn Wright, who is like a journeyman, who has taken a step this year. He's played like an up and down, like I'd say a low-end CB2, but ideally he's a backup outside guy. Jalen Jones, who is a nice special teams player, but is not a very good corner. And Nick McLeod, who tries hard, but is just not very good. I mean, he's not a disaster, but he's just not very good. This team needs cornerback help right now. Not yesterday, or yes, yesterday, but not tomorrow, not next week, today. So if there's a trade out there similar to the Roger McCreary one, I'm not trying to force the issue and, burn your draft picks, but if you can find a pick swap for someone who can suit up and play, I'd be looking to do that if I was Ryan Poles. Will Ryan Poles make a trade? Type Y for yes, or you can type in for no. He's never gone a trade deadline without making one, so we'll see if this year is different. But cornerback, potentially defensive line, which we'll get to. Yeah, those are a couple of areas. Okay, we'll start with the Bengals injury update. Zach Taylor saying that Joe Flacco with his shoulder and Trey Hendrickson with his hip, which was re-aggravated in Sunday's loss to the Jets, are day-to-day. Typically day-to-day, more often than not, those players are probably going to play. Part of it with Flacco could just be his age. I would imagine he's going to be fine. But we'll monitor it. I mean, Hendrickson did miss a game. He was a game-time decision this last week. That one could be more up in the air. I would expect Flacco out there, but we'll see on Hendrickson. And if he's not out there, the Bengals defense is really struggling. So should be a good opportunity for the Bears offense to get back on track and just kind of finish these drives that they're not finishing right now. Ben Johnson announced that Shamar Turner has torn his ACL. Pat Finley with the tweet there. Obviously not great. Has he contributed heavily this year? No, but it impacts your depth and obviously development of a young player you took in the second round. So that's obviously a bummer. Kevin Fishbane added this as well, that in addition to the Turner news, Ben Johnson announced that Dominic Robinson will miss a few weeks with a high ankle sprain. That's usually at least 2 weeks, if not up to 4. Short-term IR, I wouldn't completely rule out. And then Luther Burden is in the concussion protocol. So with Turner and Dominic Robinson down, you need some edge help. Well, you got one guy coming in. Austin Booker will be activated. Tomorrow was the deadline, so he's on the 53, which means that he has filled up your last roster spot. But again, Shamar Turner is going to go on IR, so you're going to have another roster spot open. So we'll see if another move's coming. Tano Passanio was signed to the Colts practice squad. Could the Bears try to poach him back onto the 53? They need another edge. I mean, right now, Booker's your third edge. Daniel Hardy's your 4. Booker hasn't played all year, and Hardy's really just a special teamer. So I would think they would want to potentially get another player in the mix at that defensive end position. We'll see if they do that. And that's already with the lack of cornerback depth as well. So your edge and corner groups are pretty hurt in terms of depth right now. Some other injuries to watch throughout the week. Tyreek Stevenson dealing with that shoulder. Hopefully he's able to strap up this week. We'll see where Cole Kmet's at with his back. Same with Roschon Johnson. We mentioned Burden in the protocol. Dom Rob's not playing at least this week, so probably multiple weeks. So that is where things sit for those guys as well. And just for this matchup, you really need Tyreek Stevenson back against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. If he's not out there and you don't make a move at corner, even if you do, it's going to be tough sledding. It's, if we think we're going to roll into Cincinnati and just win this game, I know they just lost the Jets. They beat the Steelers the week before. Joe Flacco's actually playing pretty decent ball right now. He's force-feeding Jamar Chase. You don't think he's going to force-feed him against the corners the Bears have right now? Of course he is. That is going to be a tall task regardless of who's out there. But if Tyreek can't go, Nick McLeod on Jamar Chase, Jalen Jones on Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, that is going to be a challenge. All right. Appreciate everybody for tuning in to this edition of Chicago Bears Now. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. We will continue to pump out content for you guys. Appreciate everybody, and bear down.